This is a lovely example of a rosewood Davenport from around about 1830 in date. Made of rosewood veneer on mahogany, and the design is fairly typical of a number of Davenports we've seen from around this date. So let's just talk you through those design elements. As you'd expect with a Davenport, the top slides forward so that it will rest over your knees for you to sit at to work. To the interior, you've got some short drawers. The top two are working drawers, quite nicely made, and the bottom two are dummy drawers. Again, this is fairly typical, and the reason they're dummy drawers is because we've got a secret drawer to the side here which sits in the space that they would occupy. So for one dummy drawer, the knob handle is actually a lever, and pushing that releases the sprung catch on this desk tidy drawer to the side. That will swing round. You can sit at your writing slope and you can easily access any ink bottles in here, or pens, or what have you. All of that fairly typical. Let's just push that in so it catches. Also, you've got a pull-out board to each side, just to expand your working area, gives you somewhere to put some extra papers or whatever. Again, fairly standard. To the side, you've got a door. Again, you'd expect this. And behind the door, we've got three graduated drawers, quite nicely made. Mahogany fronts, mahogany sides and back, cedar lining to the base. Quite a nice sign that they use cedar. But what's different about this door, a little bit unusual, is firstly it's fitted with a quadrant to the bottom, so it opens and closes with a lovely smooth action. But also the vertical sides of the door are mitered, so when closed they form a lovely clean finish. Now the door over time it's moved a little bit and it smiles a little bit at the bottom, so just pushing it in at the bottom there, when we turn the key, locks it, and that key incidentally works on the slope as well. Now this Irish Davenport stands out for another reason, and that is that it's got a very good maker's name to it. So stamped either side of the lock here we've got Williams Gibton. Now the company of Williams Gibton can trace their roots back to the late 18th century, when John Mack and Robert Gibton were both working separately as cabinet makers either side of the river in Dublin. Around about 1800 they started working together, and in 1803 they got a joint workshop in Stafford Street, and then by 1805 they'd made their partnership official. In 1812, when Robert Gibton died, his son William Gibton took over his partnership, and William's brother-in-law, Zachariah Williams, who'd been an apprentice in the company, also took a step up and he became a partner, and we have the firm of Mack, Williams and Gibton formed. Well, the crucial date for us is on a few years, 1829, and that is the year that John Mack died and the company simply became Williams and Gibton, the name of course which is stamped to this Davenport. Now the company carried on under that name until 1844, when William Gibton, Zachariah Williams' brother-in-law, had died. He'd in fact died 2 years earlier, and the company changed their name by 1844 simply to Williams and Sons. and I think they carried on for another 8 years until 1852 when they finally finished. So we've got our date parameters, 1829 to 1844 of when this could have been made. Now, the company enjoyed a fantastic reputation, and in 1806 John Mack and Robert Gibton had received the patronage of His Majesty and the Lord Lieutenant of Ireland. Now, this opened all sorts of doors. They made a lot of work for important public buildings in Dublin, the castle, the forecourt, the royal chapel, on and on. And also, of course, receiving that patronage meant that a lot of the wealthy landowners with important houses in Ireland also wanted to employ them. Now, a further little bit of information to this Davenport, which is rather interesting, is that underneath the base there's a paper label, which it's only a partial label, but it says G. Vaughan. Above G. Vaughan there are the remains of another word which end in BLE, and before G. Vaughan there's the last letter of a word which precedes it, which ends in N. Well, Captain Lawrence Vaughan was the second son of the Earl of Lisbon. And it would be lovely to think that this was made for him. And there's another bit of information which points to it having possibly been made for him. We can't be 100% sure, but everything is pointing in that direction. Well, Vaughan was a member of the 60th Regiment. He wasn't posted in Dublin, but in October 1830 he came back to Dublin to marry Mary Roche. So there's a very good chance, I think, that when he was in Dublin getting married, he bought this Davenport from Williams and Gibton. Who knows? It would be nice to think that that is the case. As I said, we can't be 100% sure, but there's a strong possibility. But aside from that connection, this is a super quality Davenport. It's very practical for modern use because it's not a large bit of furniture. It will fit into most spaces. And of course, if you want to work on a laptop, well, it's perfect, isn't it? So it's around about 1830 in date. It's made of rosewood veneered on mahogany, and it's stamped with a maker's name, Williams and Gibton.